The world we live in is one of endless chatter. People talk, people judge, people assume, people misunderstand. And at the center of this whirlwind of voices, there you are, wondering if you should respond, wondering if you should explain, wondering if you should defend yourself against the accusations, the misinterpretations, the stories that others weave around your life. But have you noticed something curious? The more you defend yourself, the more guilty you seem. The more you try to prove your innocence, the more you entangle yourself in a web of explanations that only give strength to the very thing you are trying to escape. And so, the great paradox emerges. The one who never defends himself stands taller, freer, and infinitely more powerful than the one who spends his life in endless justifications. What does it mean to never defend yourself? It does not mean to be careless or indifferent. It does not mean to abandon truth or to live without responsibility. It means to recognize that your worth, your being, your existence cannot be validated or diminished by the opinions of others. The moment you try to explain who you are to those who have already made up their minds, you have given away your power. You have let their misunderstanding dictate your actions. You have surrendered your peace to their noise. Why defend yourself when you were never on trial to begin with? Think of nature. The mountain does not defend itself when someone calls it ugly or too steep or too cold. It simply stands, immovable, magnificent in its silence. The ocean does not justify its storms, nor does it apologize for its tides. The sun does not explain why it rises each morning, nor does the moon argue with those who say it is too dim. Existence itself does not defend, it simply is. And yet, in its silence, it commands reverence. So too must you learn this art of silence, this power of not explaining, of not wasting breath on those who will twist your words, no matter how carefully you speak them. When you never defend yourself, something remarkable happens. The world begins to reveal its true faces. Those who are against you will grow frustrated because their accusations cannot find nourishment in your silence. Those who are with you will stand closer, for they see in you a strength that is not shaken by petty voices. And within yourself, you will feel a peace that cannot be stolen. To never defend yourself is not arrogance, it is liberation. It is the recognition that truth does not need a bodyguard. Every time you defend yourself, notice the subtle feeling that accompanies it, the tightening of the chest, the quickening of the breath, the agitation of the mind, as if you were on the battlefield fighting for survival. But against what? Against words, against shadows, against opinions that have no substance beyond the breath that carried them. What is the worth of spending your energy combating whispers? The tree does not rush to defend itself when the wind shakes its leaves. It knows that once the storm passes, its roots remain. And so must you. There is a beauty in misunderstanding. There is a strange wisdom in letting others think what they will, for in their stories about you, they reveal themselves more than they reveal you. If someone calls you selfish, it often springs from their own unmet desires. If someone calls you weak, it usually echoes their own fear of fragility. If someone mocks your choices, it is a mirror of their dissatisfaction with their own. Why defend yourself when their accusations are confessions disguised as judgments? Understand this deeply. People will believe what they wish to believe. If they are inclined to think poorly of you, no amount of explanation will change their mind. If they are inclined to love you, no amount of slander will take that love away. So, why defend yourself? Why waste your precious breath trying to untangle the knots in another's perception, when those knots were tied long before you even entered their sight? The great freedom is found in letting go of the need to be seen correctly. What a burden it is to constantly polish your image, to control every perception, to fight every rumor. Life becomes a prison when you are always on trial before the court of public opinion. But what if you simply walked out of the courtroom? What if you realized the trial was an illusion, and the judge, the jury, the executioner were only masks worn by frightened people projecting their own insecurities? Then you are free. Free to live without explanation, free to act without apology, free to be without defense. Consider the irony of the person who defends himself tirelessly. He becomes known not for his truth, but for his protest. People remember not what was said against him, but how desperately he tried to fight it. His defense becomes the story, not his life. But the one who remains silent, the one who never defends, becomes a mystery, a presence that is too vast to be boxed into accusations. Silence has a gravity that words can never match. Do not mistake silence for weakness. Silence is not passive, it is power. To never defend yourself is to stand rooted like the mountain, to flow like the river, to shine like the sun. It is to know that truth is not something you shout, but something you embody. Defending yourself is like shouting to prove the sun is shining while everyone can already feel its warmth. It is unnecessary, it is redundant, it is wasted breath. This does not mean that you must allow abuse or remain passive in the face of injustice. There is a difference between defending your being and protecting your boundaries. To never defend yourself means to rise above the need for validation. But protecting your boundaries is the natural assertion of life itself. The tree grows its branches into the sky, not to defend itself, but simply because that is what trees do. The river carves its path through stone, not to prove anything, but because flowing is its nature. Likewise, when you act to preserve your dignity, your health, your peace, it is not a defense, it is the natural movement of your life. Notice how much lighter you feel when you drop the urge to explain yourself. Imagine living without the constant rehearsal of words, without the endless mental courtroom where you prepare your case before imaginary judges. Imagine walking through life with the quiet knowing that you owe no one an explanation for your existence. What a relief! What a joy to wake up each morning and live as you are, without dragging behind you the burden of proving, explaining, defending. The world will test you. It will provoke you. It will send critics, accusers, gossips, and doubters into your path. They are not enemies. They are teachers. They are mirrors sent to show you whether you are still enslaved by the need to be understood. Each time someone speaks falsely of you, it is an invitation. Will you rise in agitation? Or will you remain in silence? Will you lose your peace trying to fix their vision, or will you let them sit with their own illusions? The one who never defends himself always wins, not because he crushes his opponents, but because he never enters their battlefield. Life is not a debate to be won. Life is a dance to be lived. To defend yourself is to take life as an argument. To never defend yourself is to take life as music. You do not explain a song, you sing it. You do not justify a poem, you live it. And so it is with you. You are not here to argue your worth. You are here to embody it, to express it, to shine it without apology. Remember this, the truth is timeless. Lies may spread quickly, but they burn out like dry grass. Truth, unshaken and undefended, remains like stone unmovable through the years. The more you defend, the more you give life to the lie. The less you defend, the quicker the lie withers in the absence of your attention. Truth needs no defense. It simply endures. And so never defend yourself, not because you are careless, but because you are free. Not because you do not care what others think, but because you understand that what they think is their journey, not yours. Not because you are above humanity, but because you are in harmony with life itself, which never defends, but always is. Stand like the mountain, flow like the river, shine like the sun, and when the voices rise against you, when the whispers grow loud, when the judgments come as they always will, smile and remain silent. For you are not here to argue. You are here to live. There comes a moment when you begin to see that life itself is not asking for explanations. The trees do not put forth arguments about why they grow where they grow. The stars do not justify why they burn in distant skies. Rivers do not apologize for flooding, nor do deserts explain their barrenness. Existence is not on trial. It simply expresses, and in expressing, it fulfills its purpose. And if you are an inseparable part of this existence, then why should you be any different? Why should you spend your days as though in a courtroom, trying to explain your right to simply be? The tragedy of humanity is not that others misunderstand us, but that we misunderstand ourselves so deeply that we believe we must constantly defend our worth. To never defend yourself is to recognize that the battle was never real. The accusations, the criticisms, the rumors, these are echoes in the air, vanishing as soon as they are spoken. Yet we grab them, hold them, wrestle them, and in doing so, give them weight they never had. Imagine if you never picked them up at all. Imagine if words about you passed like wind through an open window, never caught, never resisted, simply moving on. How light your life would be, how untroubled your spirit, how free your heart. And yet, silence does not mean inaction. It does not mean cowardice. It means discernment. It means knowing where to place your energy. Some battles are worth fighting, battles of survival, of protection, of love. But the battle to defend your image is an illusion, a game played by minds that are still trapped in insecurity. When you refuse to play, you step outside the game. You become something else entirely. Someone untouchable, someone grounded, someone radiant with an inner knowing that explanations are chains and silence is wings. Think of the child at play. A child does not defend why he laughs, why she runs, why they draw strange pictures on the wall. They simply do. Only later do we teach them the art of defending. Defend your grade, defend your choices, defend your dreams, defend even your joy. But in truth, joy needs no defense. Authenticity needs no defense. The heart, when true to itself, stands tall without argument. So what happens when you embrace this? What happens when you fully live without defending yourself? At first, the world may find it strange. People may prod, expecting resistance, but you remain unmoved. They may attack, expecting you to fight, but you stay silent. They may gossip, expecting outrage, but you remain serene. And in that silence, they begin to see a reflection of themselves. Without your defense, their accusations hang in the air, unsupported, until they collapse under their own emptiness. The power they thought they had over you dissolves, and in its place is born a new respect, even from those who wish to see you fall. The irony of never defending yourself is that it earns you a defense greater than any words could provide. Life itself becomes your defender. Time becomes your witness. The truth reveals itself not through arguments, but through the unfolding of reality. What is false eventually crumbles, but what is true does not require you to protect it, for it cannot be destroyed. Every explanation you give is like adding logs to a fire you wish would burn out. Every silence is like pouring water on the flame. Soon the fire dies, and with it the noise. You emerge untouched, unburned, because you never entered the flames of defense. Instead, you walked on living, breathing, being, while others wasted their breath in futile accusations. When you never defend yourself, you return to the purity of simply being. And in that being, there is a quiet authority that words cannot match. People may not always understand you, but they will sense something unshakable. They will feel the weight of your presence, the clarity of your silence, the strength of your refusal to waste yourself on proving anything. And in that, they will either walk away, unable to penetrate your peace, or they will draw closer, seeking the secret of your serenity. But let us go deeper still. Why is defense so seductive? Why do we feel the urge to explain ourselves, to set the record straight? It is because deep inside, we fear the loss of control. We believe that if others see us wrongly, our life will be diminished. We fear rejection, abandonment, ridicule. We fear being misunderstood, for we have tied our worth to the fragile threads of perception. Yet this is the great illusion. Your worth does not increase when praised, nor does it decrease when slandered. The essence of who you are remains untouched by opinions. The diamond does not become less precious because someone calls it a stone. The sun does not stop shining because someone says it is too hot. And your being does not lose its truth because someone misjudges it. The fear of being misunderstood is a prison of the mind. But you must ask yourself, who are you living for? Are you here to live out the fullness of your existence, or are you here to manage the endless perceptions of others? If the latter, then your life will never be your own. You will become a puppet pulled by invisible strings of expectation. But if the former, then freedom is yours the moment you drop the burden of defense. To never defend yourself is to accept misunderstanding as a natural part of life. People will not always see you clearly, but why should they? They see through the fog of their own experiences, their own wounds, their own desires. Expecting perfect understanding from another is like expecting the ocean to remain still while the wind blows. It cannot be. And so, you let go, or you smile at the misunderstandings, and you move forward unburdened. This way of living requires courage. It is easier to defend, easier to fight, easier to argue. But the path of silence, of non-defense, is the path of strength. It requires that you trust yourself, that you trust truth, that you trust life itself to carry you. And it requires that you release the desperate need for approval. That is the true challenge. To never defend yourself is to stand naked before the world, unarmored, vulnerable in appearance, but invincible in reality. Look at the great rivers again. They do not defend their path. They carve through valleys, they shape mountains, they create fertile lands. And though people may curse their floods or fear their depths, the rivers continue, unbothered, unashamed. Their power is not in argument, but in persistence. Their truth is not in explanation, but in flow. Become like the river. Flow live, move, create. And let those who misunderstand watch in silence as your life speaks louder than any words. When you no longer defend yourself, you begin to live authentically. You begin to make choices not based on how they will be perceived, but based on what resonates with your soul. You act not to prove, but to express. You love not to earn approval, but to give freely. And in that authenticity you find the deep joy that was hidden all along beneath the armor of defense. For the armor you wore was heavy, and it weighed down your spirit. Without it you are light, free, untouchable. And so the greatest defense is no defense at all. The greatest power is silence. The greatest freedom is to be as you are, unbothered by the shifting winds of opinion. For opinions change with the seasons, but truth endures like the mountain, like the sea, like the stars. You are not here to be explained. You are here to be lived. Walk now with this knowing. Let others think what they will. Let them judge. Let them whisper. Let them doubt. You owe them nothing. Your life is not an argument to be won. It is a flame to be lived. Burn brightly, then without apology, without justification, without defense. For the fire that burns without needing permission is the fire that lights the world.